जी
They can't put 3 and 3.
You can. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. That will be the lowest form. Doesn't matter much. Okay. Now, when you compare quantities, you get a ratio. But what when you compare ratios? That is something which is known as proportion. So, if you have something like A by B is equal to C by D, this is a proportion. There can be a lot of operations which can be done in this proportion. Can I say AD is equal to BC? Known as alternando. Then I can say A by A minus B is equal to C by C minus D. Yada kuch? Or we can invert it. I can say B by A is equal to D by C. Or I can say A plus B by A minus B is equal to A plus C plus D by C minus D. This is invertendo. Sorry, this is invertendo, alternando, componendo, dividendo. If I would have said A plus B by B is equal to C plus D by D. That was, we read all these things in grade 10. These operations may not be of that much amount of value to us. Couple of things which are more value to us from the competitive exam viewpoint is, this A is known as first proportion, B is known as second proportion, C is known as third proportion, and D is known as fourth proportion. Right? Many a times in the exam we will give you 3 out of them and ask you to find out the fourth one. This is one. Second, there can also be a proportion which is known as A by B is equal to B by C, where A is known as first proportion, C is known as third proportion, and B is known as mean proportion. Can I cross multiply? Do you get B square is equal to AC? And do you get B is equal to root AC? So B is known as mean proportion. Right? In this question, he will give you A and C and ask you to find out mean proportion. Or he will give you first proportion and mean proportion, ask you to find out the third proportion. These are the type of things which he may ask you. Now, when we talk about proportion, proportion can be of 4 different types. First type of proportion is something which is known as direct proportion. What do you mean by direct proportion? Something which moves directly. For example, if one thing goes double, the second also goes double. One thing goes 3 times, second thing also goes 3 times. One thing goes half, other thing goes also half. What can be the example? Simple example can be, you go and buy a movie ticket, and one movie ticket costs you 200 rupees. One movie ticket, total price spent is 200. 2 movie tickets, 3, 600. What is happening? Number of people went from 1 to 2. The amount spent also went from 2 to 4. Number of people went from 1 to 3. Number of amount spent also went 3 times. They are directly proportional. More is the number of people going, more is the expense which you are going to incur in watching the movie. A more relevant example would be time remaining constant speed is directly proportional to distance. Do you understand this? If I have to total travel for 1 hour, fixed, my time is constant. If my speed is 100 km per hour, distance covered is 100 km. If my speed goes double, my speed becomes 200 kilometers an hour. How much is the distance covered in an hour? 200. My speed goes half. It becomes 50 kilometers an hour. My distance traveled becomes very simple, very clear, no problem. So speed is directly proportional to distance, time remaining Second type of proportion is something which we call as indirect proportion. What do you mean by indirect proportion? Indirect proportion is like a seesaw. If one thing goes double, other goes half. This thing goes 3 times, other goes 1/3. It's like a seesaw. Let me take an example. Let us say there is a 50-seater movie theater. I book the entire movie theater and I pay 5,000 rupees. I invite everybody, but nobody comes. I am the only person watching the movie. What will be the expense per head? 5,000. Now let us say Manini joins me. We have 2 people. What is the expense per head? What happened? Number of people went double. Expense went half. Let us say Gargi also joins us. Number of people went 3. Expense will go 1/3. 4 people. Number of people went 4 times. Expense goes 1/4. Let us say 50 people join. Expense goes 1/50th. Very simple. No problem. This is indirect proportion. One thing goes up twice, other goes half. One thing goes 3 times, other goes 1/3. This goes double, this goes half, and so on. Right? Again, more relevant example will be distance remaining constant. Speed is proportional to 1/t. I have to travel 100 kilometers. That is fixed. If I travel at a speed of 100, how much time I take? 1 hour. If my speed goes half, 50, time taken is 2 hours. If my speed goes double, 200 kilometers an hour, time taken goes half. Clear? Seesaw. That is indirect proportion. Third thing is something which is known as direct relation. Direct relation means if one thing increases, the other definitely increases, but not in the same ratio. For example, we go and watch a movie at drive-in theater. Right? Per person 10 rupees, per vehicle 30 rupees. If I only go myself, how much do I spend? 30 plus and 40. If there are 2 people which go, I spend 50. 30 vehicle is fixed. 2 people 20, 50. So what happened? Number of people went double. Expense definitely went up, but not double. Not in the same ratio. Clear? That is direct relation. Fourth is something which is known as indirect relation. What is indirect relation? Reverse. Let us say we go to drive-in to watch a movie and we say, boss, TTMM. Tera tu, mera main. Expense, kharcha. Dutch. Yes, no. Now if one person is going, I am paying everything, 40 rupees. When 2 people are going, each one pays 25. One gaadi, 30 rupees. 2 people, 20 rupees. 50 is the total kharcha. Each one will pay half. इतना तो इज्जत रखेंगे ना 50-50 means 50-50. ये थोड़ी गाड़ी तेरी दी तो गाड़ी का पैसा तू दे, make you do. It's not like that we want to do, right? 3 people go, we spend 60 and per person comes 20. So one person pays 40. When the people become 2, you pay 25. When people become 3, you pay 20. What is happening? With increase in number, expense per head is decreasing, but not in the same ratio. Clarity for sure. That is indirect.